it's proven that our brain has an electromagnetic field. And as we think thoughts, we actually change the electromagnetic energy around us. Our hearts, our emotions are 5,000 times stronger than the electromagnetic field of our head. So as we feel emotions, like feeling really joyful, that is affecting the world around us, or feeling really upset, that's affecting the world around us.
Welcome, Revolutionary Mama, to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast. I'm Ryan Watkin, educator, mom of three, rebel at heart, and passionate soul on a mission to empower and inspire you. Here, we'll explore psychology, spirituality, parenthood, and the intersection where they all come together. We'll discover how challenges can be fertile soil for growth, and that even in the messy middle of motherhood, we can find magic in the mundane. Join me on my own personal journey as I talk to experts and share resources on education, creativity, self-care, family culture, and more. I believe we can change the world by starting at home in our own minds and hearts, and that when we do, we'll be passing down the most important legacy there is: healing. And so it is. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast. I am so happy you're here. I am like brimming with gratitude right now because I just got off the line with Matt O'Neill. That's who I'm sitting down with today. And our conversation was just filled with hope. It was filled with positivity. I am so grateful that I get to share this with you. Matt O'Neill is a happiness coach whose work has positively impacted the lives of over 100,000 people. He's the author of Good Mood Revolution, Igniting the Power of Conscious Happiness, a book that teaches us to live our most joyful life. He is always also the host of the Good Mood Revolution podcast, where he delivers strategies to grow our happiness skills each week. I personally just followed and subscribed in all the places to his podcast because his message is so profound, and he really breaks down happiness in such a practical and logical way, which you guys will hear throughout the episode. He is also a dad of 4 kiddos, and so that was fun to hear about his life as a family, as a husband, as a father. This conversation just brought me so much joy. We talk about happiness, of course. We talk about suffering. He mentions a couple of amazing books, which I will link up in the show notes in case you want to get those. We talk about the 8 negative moods in his book. We talk about celebrating small wins, how to practice happiness skills, and why happiness is a choice. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. If you did, be a doll and jump on Apple or Spotify and leave a 5-star review. That would be really amazing. Thank you so much for being here week after week as we go into this season of Christmas and New Year's and different holidays that everyone is celebrating. I am reflecting, and I'm really feeling this just tremendous, I've already said it 3 times in this intro, but tremendous gratitude for each and every one of you. I love showing up here and chatting with you and, being vulnerable, which I do in this episode. I talk a little bit about my struggle in the past with addiction and overcoming that. And my goal is really to show up authentically, to just talk in a real way about the challenges I've been through, the different choices I make now, the choices I make to live a whole and happy life. And that doesn't mean it's without challenge. There are still challenges I go through. There are still choices every day that need to be made. And so that's why I love this episode so much, is because it breaks down happiness in such a simple way. Many of you know that my original podcast, or the original title of this podcast, was called The Happy Mom Show. And so happiness is one of those things that is really, really near and dear to my heart. All right, let's jump in. Can't wait to hear what you think about this episode. You can always connect with me on Instagram at Raising Wild Hearts or send me an email at hello@raisingwildheartspodcast.com. All right, let's jump in.
Please note, the opinions and perspectives of guests on the Raising Wild Hearts podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of Ryan Watkin or anyone associated with the Raising Wild Hearts podcast.
Hi, Matt. Welcome to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast.
What's up, Ryan?
I'm so excited that you're here. We could have had a whole conversation before the conversation, which always happens, And one of the funny places that I think we should start, Matt, which seems really odd talking to a happiness expert, but I want to start off with suffering, because I think we all have this experience of going through really hard times and challenges and these seasons where we feel like we're like schlepping through life with no joy to be found. I know I have had those moments throughout my 41 years of life, and I really feel like we need to kind of frame this with some meaning. So what do you have to say about walking through suffering and going through challenge?
Oh, I feel like you're talking about last week.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, as a parent of 4 young kids, and I know you're a parent of 3 young kids, very similar ages to us, there is so much to do. My wife has a job, and she makes lunches and breakfasts, and I have a job and I make lunches and breakfasts, and I'm still wiping bottoms. I'm not out of that phase yet.
Yep.
And I'm going to cheer competitions and cross-country meets and basketball practices. And no one stepped up to be the basketball coach last week. And my wife said, Cameron's not going to not have a coach. And she took on the job as basketball coach.
Wow.
And it's just so much. And as she takes on this job as basketball coach, a giant pain shows up in her right shoulder and up the back of her neck. And it gets so intense, she wakes up the next morning and can't turn her head. Yep. She has to turn her whole body like a robot, like this, to look at me. and it's because it's so much. Right? It's just so much. This giant life can feel like a grind. Yeah. And being a parent, is rewarding as it is also really difficult sometimes. And it can just feel like overwhelming. So that was last week. And I went to lunch with a friend. And at lunch, I said, let's think about how amazing this past year has been. So to the person listening, this is the exact exercise that I did on Thursday at lunch. I said, think about January 1 of 2024. And then I want you to make your greatest hits, everything that was amazing since January 1 of 2024 until today. Personal, career, kids, vacations, anything you've done that was cool. And I'm like, just list it out. And if you need to, go to your calendar and look at how much stuff, how amazing this life has been this year. And so we took some time, and my wife flew one of my daughters to see Taylor Swift for her birthday. And she lost her mind. My daughter just lost her mind. This was the only thing she wanted. And we were like, it's way too expensive. And, she just didn't think it was going to happen. We're like, maybe one day she'll tour again. And meanwhile, we had the tickets, and we've been planning this for months. And so that was one of this magical, she's jumping up and down. And then my wife I didn't get to experience it. I'm a Swiftie by marriage, and I love her. And I would love to have seen that show, but my wife got to experience it. So that was one of the greatest hits. We went on a backpacking trip this year. I took not all 4, the 2-year-old stayed home, but my 3 daughters and my wife and I backpacked. And where we backpacked, there were wild ponies. Wow. They would just walk up to our tent, and I fed one an apple like a baby wild pony, this bucking bronco. That was an amazing experience. I was thinking about how my book is publishing this year. And, they're like, I just started to list all these things. And so I highly recommend, if you're listening to this and sometimes your life feels like a grind, that you take 10 minutes and think about what are all the amazing things? What are my greatest hits from this year? Mm-hmm. And I got done making that list. And my next question that I asked my friend at lunch, I said, if all of this is just the beginning, how amazing could your future be? And one of my favorite authors is a guy named Ben Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And he said, if you want a better present, get a bigger future. So when we're stuck in a rut, we're feeling like this is a grind. It's never going to end. The overwhelm is never going to end. And where am I going? I'm going nowhere. Well, this exercise of counting how great things have been and then thinking about how great they can be gets us out of the rut. We are going somewhere, and it is beautiful, and this year has been beautiful. As I started to write, how amazing could this next year be? The first thing I wrote was, I'm living my dream life. I just don't always notice it.
Yeah.
So my goal at that meeting, at that lunch, I said, I want to notice every single day that this is the life I dreamed for. I want to wake up and say, this is the wife I dreamed that I would marry. I want to wake up and hug my kids and say, these are the kids that I wished we would have. And I want to know every day that I'm living my dream. And so I came home and I sat down with my wife on Saturday morning and we were having coffee. And I said, this is the life we dreamed for. And she said, this is the life we dreamed for. I said, and sometimes it feels like so much. But if we could remind each other that everything we have are the blessings we wished we would have. Yes, it's big. Yes, it can be overwhelming sometimes, but this is the life. So what we did to alleviate some of that neck pain was I started to tell Katie, you can't just be a martyr all the time. You can't just sacrifice your joy. You can't just go ahead and take care of the basketball practice and all the other things and me, cooking for me and doing the grocery shopping and all of the things. She takes care of so many things. Like, it's crazy, the number of things, the strings around her fingers, the homework and the projects. She knows everything, when the doctor's kids' well visits are and when their testing is. Like, it's so much. It's crazy what she does. And I said, I need you to have some things that are just about you. Now, it's crazy, it's good that I care that she has some things that are just about her. One of the things I wrote down at this lunch was, I want to take full ownership of 2 mornings a week where Katie gets to sit down and drink coffee with no kids and nothing to do. No lunches, no breakfasts, no getting to school, no putting the shoes on, no where's your homework, no you need a ponytail. Like, I said, I'm going to take 2 full mornings. I said, I'm going to take Wednesday, I'm going to take Friday. And you can go for a walk. You could walk with your friend. You could do some yoga if you wanted to. You could just sit there and play a game on your phone. Whatever is going to make you happy. Do Wordle. She loves Wordle. Mm-hmm. And so that started. So I took Wednesday and Friday last week and I loved it. I got all this connection with the kids from those 2 mornings. I'm doing it tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm taking it over tomorrow and then Friday. And so that's one of the ways that I kind of helped her create a little space.
Yeah, that's amazing. For you to reflect that back to her, what a gift for her. And I am so lucky to have a partner like that who is like, not even like, tell me how I can help you. Just like, you need to go have some time, it looks like you might need a walk. We've talked about the phrasing of it because sometimes I'll be like, I don't need a walk. And he'll be like so there's a very delicate way that he needs to phrase it when I'm in like this place, right? But what
yes,
a gift.
No, I know what you mean, Ryan.
Yes,
yeah, it's like,
I bet
it's
you
like,
do.
I'm like, hey, maybe you should take a bath. And she's like, I don't need a bath.
Totally. Don't tell me what to do.
I'm like, the kids and I need you to take a bath.
The kids and I really need you to go take a bath and a walk. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yes, it's so true because we can get spiky. And you said this word. You said this word, martyr. And boy, have I been up and down the block with this word, Matt, because number one, it's some of what was modeled to me. Number two, I have this perfectionistic tendency, just as a gift, thank you, God, that I've had to work through because I feel as though there are so many funny memes about this. Like, I need some help. No, not like that. I'll fucking do it myself. That kind of a thing. Like, we have these tendencies as perfectionists that we have to do it all ourselves and be all the things and go all the places. And if it's not done by me, then it won't be done right. And I know that everybody out there, many people are resonating with that. And so to take this proverbial load off of our shoulders, which then becomes actual, like your wife's shoulder pain and neck pain, like I can totally relate to that. It shows up as physical once we let it go and go and go for so long.
And if we're not careful, it can show up as more.
Yes, absolutely.
So I want to talk about these two. So my book is The Good Mood Revolution. And in the first half of the book is exactly like we're talking about now. I originally started to write a book called How to Get Out of Bad Moods.
Oh, yeah.
The first half of the book is how to get out of the 8 negative emotions. Yes. And we all experience these 8 negative emotions. We think we're unique, that we're the ones suffering and no one else is suffering. Guess what? Everyone's suffering.
Totally.
Everyone's suffering in the exact same way. And that's like so relieving to know too, that everyone feels like a martyr. Everyone feels like they have to do it on their own. Everyone feels like they don't have support. We all feel that way. No one is immune from it. But these two in particular are just manifestations of 2 of the negative moods. And there's only 8 negative moods. So the perfectionism, my wife deals with this one big time. A lot of moms do. She says, I need to cook the dinner. I need to do the laundry. We can't have someone do that for us. I need to keep my house clean. And it's like her worth as a woman is, I have to do these things because it defines my worth as a woman. Well, this all comes from the emotion of guilt.
Yep.
And perfectionism is a manifestation of guilt where we're going to feel guilty if we don't do it this way. Mm-hmm. This is just a common negative emotion, and it's not helpful. It doesn't help us at all. Zero help. So once we can recognize, as we're saying these things, that this is an unhelpful emotion, it's actually a lie. I call it in my book, each of the negative emotions is a lie the ego feeds us. Like, so the lie of this one, the way that guilt is manifesting for my wife at least, is that I won't be as good of a mom or a woman if I don't cook the dinner and it doesn't taste perfect, and if I don't give my kids nutrition the way that my mom gave it to me, and if I don't do the laundry myself, and if all these things, that I won't be as good of a woman. Is that true? Not at all. No. It's a complete lie. Mm-hmm. So if we can recognize that this is a lie, that the ego is telling us this lie, then we can say, do I want to believe that lie today? So this afternoon, we've got Holiday at the Horseshoe. Our children are singing at the Horseshoe at their school. And it starts at 5:15 and it ends at 8. And we've got piano practice until 4:45. And so she's saying, hey, are we going to try to eat dinner at 4:45 to 5:15, or are we going to get them home at 8 o'clock? And maybe we won't, because they'll be running around with their friends, and we get home at 8:30 or 8:45 and then try to feed them and then try to get the bedtime routine. And I'm like, and she's like, and then what would I make? Like, I've got this thing, my car's in the shop. This is the conversation we had this morning. And I said, what about Chick-fil-A on my way home?
Yep.
And she's like, yes. We'll do some Chick-fil-A on the way home. Now, this is an evolution for Katie.
Yeah.
That she's willing to let her kids eat fried chicken from a fast food restaurant. Mm-hmm. But I would say this, it's healthier for her to be happy and for the kids to eat fried chicken than it is for her to suffer while trying to make some nutritious meal, her getting prickly, her snapping at everybody, her not being in a good mood. we're probably going to have a healthier family ordering the Chick-fil-A tonight. So this is one of the things, there's this lie that it all has to be perfect and it's all up to me. It's just a lie of guilt. And so hopefully this resonates with someone and they can recognize it the next time that lie shows up, that it's not even true.
Hey, it's me, Ryan. So something I do every single day to invest in my growth, besides connecting with the humans on this podcast, obviously, is reading. Reading is where it all started for me. I was 5 when I became obsessed with books, writing them, reading them, collecting them. I love how I can get inspired with new ideas and stories and ways to grow. That's why I ask all my guests what they're reading. And finally, you can check out all the book recommendations from the experts and authors on the show in one place at raisingwildhearts.com/books. There are some life changers in there like You Are the Placebo, and a few hidden gems like Sacred Motherhood and Living, Loving, and Learning. So if you want to get your hands on your next great read, check out the full list by heading to raisingwildhearts.com/books. Okay, back to the show. 1000%. And I had quite a similar day yesterday. There were a lot of moving pieces and my husband was at a work event and I'm like, how am I going to do all the things and feed all the people and pick up here and drop off here? I have like 2 pickups at the same exact time. I'm like, how am I going to make this work? And Chick-fil-A was just one of the moving pieces, one of the many pieces of that afternoon. And, it felt like, like they're happy. We're making this work, like, let's just do it. So that's really important. And I want to touch on something that you're alluding to, which is that like bad moods are just habits. And sometimes we just get in the habit of like, oh, woe is me. Oh, I have so much on my plate. And though it's not helpful and it doesn't feel good, it's familiar. And so we stay in it. And sometimes, I know I do this sometimes, I know I'm in it and I'm still like, I'm just going to stay in it, And so let's talk about breaking that bad habit and like the baby steps to shift, just like pretty quickly on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Absolutely. And you nailed it. And so habits are typically formed because we watched our parents. And my mom was a huge martyr. And it was all on her shoulders and everyone treated her poorly, and including me. She's one of my best friends, but of course I took advantage of her because she allowed me to. And everyone took advantage of her because she allowed everyone to. Yeah. And she wouldn't do anything for herself. And so then I take on that. I'm like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to act. But this isn't a conscious decision. A subconscious decision shows up as a child that's the way that we act as a parent. And so most of our bad mood habits we just modeled. And then they do become so addicting because we have an identity. My identity is that I suffer. And because I suffer, I love you. Now, again, that's a lie. It is a total lie. Suffering does not equal love. It doesn't equal self-love. It doesn't equal love for our children. In fact, the opposite of suffering, which is being totally lit up and happy and joyful and playful and tickling our kids and doing things that make them laugh and pulling them out of their bad moods, the joyful version of us is a more loving version. The suffering version that then snaps and yells and screams and like my mom goes and cries in the closet because it's so overwhelming. That doesn't actually feel like love, not for her, and it's not self-love for her. It wasn't love for me. I just felt terrible, like, oh, I'm a bad kid. I'm making my mom cry. I'm making it too hard on her. It was the days when she was rising up with joy and doing fun things and that we were laughing. Those are the great memories of when I felt like the love was authentic and real. So the lie that if I'll suffer as a martyr, that's going to equal how much I love, that's another one for us to break. But what are some things we can do to break these spells? The second emotion that I wanted to get to, the first was guilt. We overcome guilt by counting all the things we're doing well. Guilt is always telling us what we're not doing enough. It's saying, I didn't do that right, and I'm a bad mom here, and I'm a bad dad here, and I'm letting this thing down, and I didn't exercise this week, and oh my gosh, that's guilt. It doesn't help. The counter to guilt is doing this thing that I call counting wins. So every morning I count 3 wins. You can do this at night before you go to bed. That's another great place. Just a little notepad next to your bed. For me, it's in the morning. I wake up and I say, what are 3 things I did well yesterday? This completely counteracts all guilt, because instead of saying all the ways I'm not measuring up, I'm saying, but these 3 ways I crushed it. Like these 3 things I did yesterday were awesome. One of those yesterday was taking care of Katie. Like I said, that was one of my wins. So while I wasn't perfect yesterday, every single day, if you can wake up and say, what are 3 things I did well yesterday, you will stop guilt. It is the antidote to it. The second negative emotion that we're talking about here is overwhelm. Overwhelm is that kind of martyr. It's all up to me. No one can do it as well as me. And in fact, no one can help me because I don't have any support. No one's there for me. It's all up to me. I'm all alone in this. Total lie. Not true. It's just an emotion of overwhelm. The lie of overwhelm is that it's all up to me and there's no help and there's no support. We just need to recognize it. Now, how we get out of overwhelm is we ask for help.
Did you hear that, everybody? Did you hear that? Asking for help. Yes.
When we're in it, though, we don't feel like asking for help. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we think they will just say no. Like they won't help us. They won't support us. They don't have time either. I'll just suffer. Again, I really want to get this through. Suffering is not part of the equation. It doesn't have to be. It can be if it's a habit. But I want us to, I call it igniting the power of conscious happiness. Because when we become conscious to any suffering, at that moment we get to say, it's a conscious choice at this point for me to continue to suffer, which is going to harm my kids and harm me and harm the world. Or I can consciously say, I'm suffering and I need help. How do we get help? Well, pretty simple. We just ask for it. I have a lot of friends that say, well, I haven't been on a date in 3 years. We can't leave the kids. It's not true. Well, my wife wouldn't let anyone watch the kids. I'm like, that's also not true. That's just a lie we're telling ourselves because we would rather suffer than go be joyful. But our kids don't, again, if we don't ever go out and nurture our marriage and then the marriage falls apart, is that good for the kids? Or if we don't nurture our marriage and then we're always fighting and that we've got this loveless marriage that we're living together as roommates, is that good for the kids? Or is that a good role model for these children to watch? No. So we have to stop telling ourselves this lie that no one's there to help us. I moved my mom to Charleston. I said, hey, you could come here to Charleston. We have all these babies. You could be around them. And she said, yes. Okay. And then I started to ask her, I said, hey, could you do 2 nights a week of running with some of the kids just so we've got extra hands? And she said, sure. I said, I'll pay you, and she's like, I don't want any money. I said, but it'll feel better for me if I pay you a little bit of money, because I would have to pay a babysitter. So this is the thing. There's kids on our street right now that are high schoolers that I could pay to drive my kids somewhere. Mm-hmm. Everyone has that option. There's kids in your neighborhood, and child labor is pretty cheap. It's not absolutely inexpensive, but it is worth it. There are also retired folks like my mom that are looking for purpose. There are retired people in your neighborhood right now that wish they had some. They are so lonely. They wish they had a family to help. Mm-hmm. There's someone just like my mom, and I'm giving my mom $200 a week. There's someone just like my mom in your town that you could give $200 a week to, that could do 2 nights a week or do some laundry or make a couple of meals. And they would be so, so happy to have a reason to get out of bed every day. Mm-hmm. And it would give them fulfillment. It would give you help. And this is just, I'm just saying, anytime I hear someone say, and they'd be like, I don't have $200 a week. I understand.
I hear all the counterpoints. I hear all the, you want a stranger to drive my kid? Oh, you want a teenager to drive my kid? And here's the thing. When we put out these needs, even to the universe, let's call it. Like, so I determine, okay, I need some help on Mondays. Like Mondays are a hard day for me. I need some help. in my head or on a journal say, okay, I really want like a homeschooled high schooler whose family lives close by and I kind of know them and maybe they know somebody in our family. Like maybe it's this like referral type situation. And when you can put these specific requests out in your mind and in your heart to the universe without the fear, without the challenge of like, oh, that's impossible. Like when you can put it out with positivity and believe that it's possible, which it is, like that's when those people show up. We've gone through seasons where we have not had babysitters, and every time my husband and I are like, we need another babysitter. This is who we're looking for. This is what we want her to be like. One just shows up. And it's like, I mean, it's true. Like it's just, has been our experience. And so we can continue to put these limitations in front of us and these roadblocks and continue to feel these things like guilt and overwhelm, but really believing something different, choosing something different. It is just a choice.
Let me tell you the science behind why what you just said
Please.
actually affects everything.
Yes.
So it's proven that our brain has an electromagnetic field. And as we think thoughts, we actually change the electromagnetic energy around us. Our hearts, our emotions are 5,000 times stronger than the electromagnetic field of our head. So as we feel emotions, like feeling really joyful, that is affecting the world around us, or feeling really upset, that's affecting the world around us. But in the 1940s, there was a guy that was studying with Einstein. His name was Wolfgang Pauli, and he won a Nobel Prize for this discovery. It's called the Pauli exclusion principle. And he found that every single electron on every single atom, and it's uncountable, the number of electrons that are in the universe, has a unique number, kind of like a snowflake. Like there's no two snowflakes that are alike. In just real simple terms, he said, I'm going to multiply the distance the electron is from the nucleus times the speed it's spinning at and times the rate it's spinning at. Every single electron has a different number. So if it's 1 times 2 times 3, then your number would be 6. But no other electron in the universe can have a number 6. Well, now if I'm thinking a thought or feeling an emotion, and that changes the electrons around me, because it does, and one of them turns into a 6. If there's a 6 somewhere across the universe, it instantly changes. So every single thought we have, every single feeling we have is changing the universe, and we change it here and it changes there. So as we think about this perfect babysitter, literally all of these thoughts change all the electrons, and everything is rearranging itself to deliver itself and get itself back into balance. This is absolutely science, and it explains why we attract things to us that we think about.
Wowza. Yes, yes. So is this like the law of attraction explained?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, which is exactly what you were talking about.
Right.
Is you visualize this perfect person that's going to show up, that's going to be the right babysitter, that's going to help you, because now you believe it's possible that somebody can help you instead of saying all the reasons they can't. And also, if we say, no one can help me, we also create images that no one can help me. And guess what we get? No one's allowed to help me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's big. And so I would say the first step in that is just allowing. Like we have to be, as mothers, as women, more receptive to what we're thinking, how we're feeling, how we're showing up, because it's really nuanced, day to day, and depending on what we're going through. And there can be hard days, and I understand that. Like, I get it. Trust me, I get it. And also, like, in order to be receptive to another choice, just the possibility that there is something else happening, or there's another way to feel, or there are opportunities. Like, I think that's so important to keep in mind. So I'm so curious about this. I'd love to circle back around and hear more about these 8 negative moods, because I think this is so universal. But also, you say your path to positive emotions is through the negative ones. Does that mean, because the first thing I thought of when I read that was like our capacity to feel joy is dependent on our capacity to feel pain or sadness or grief or anger, like being able to feel the full spectrum of emotions. Is that correct in your opinion, or what have you found?
You nailed it.
Okay.
In fact, most of us numb our negative emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Numbing is a very common, in fact, the most common. And you'll know this, just do your own little experiment. Ask people, how are you today? They say, oh, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. Our common responses are not negative and not positive. They are blah.
Yeah.
And all of us, if we numb these negative emotions, like, oh, I don't want to feel them. I don't want to feel bad, so I just won't feel. We are numbing our positive emotions, exactly as you just described. And I did this. I had all of these negative emotions. I didn't know how to deal with them. No one taught me how to process the 8 negative emotions. The worst of them for me was shame, this feeling that I'm not lovable, that there's something wrong with me. That developed in childhood as well. It was too painful to deal with, so I just shut down my entire heart. I didn't let anyone get close to me because I didn't want them to find out that deep down I was unlovable. It wasn't true. It was just a lie. All these emotions are just lies, these negative ones. But it was too painful, so I shut down my heart so no one could find out the truth. I put on a mask of who I wanted them to think I was, and then I acted in my mask. But then I couldn't actually feel love because they were loving a mask. They weren't loving an authentic version of me. And it was taking off of the mask and being vulnerable and saying, sometimes I feel unlovable. And what do I do about this? And is this actually true that I am unlovable? I found out it wasn't true. It was just a lie. And then started to say the truth that I am lovable. And being vulnerable in this way, now I'm like, okay, this is the emotion of shame. And when it shows up, it feels pretty bad. But I'm going to feel it because you don't get to feel the highest amounts of joy if you don't let yourself actually feel the lowest amounts of suffering. Mm-hmm. But our heart's really beautiful. It's really beautiful that our heart gets so sad. We love to watch a movie that makes us cry. I love to watch a movie that actually makes me feel something now. Mm-hmm. Why do we want to watch a movie that makes us cry? Because it feels good to feel. Yeah. And when we can get in touch with this heart and it's okay, and we're like, okay, I'm not going to be swallowed up by the negativity, we're now allowing ourselves to rise up to the full extent of positivity. One of the most common emotions for women in particular, it's not all women, but most commonly, is worry or fear or anxiety. I think we've got an anxiety pandemic right now. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like this emotion is it's Katie's go-to. Worry. She's worried about all of them. She's worried about everything. My mom was always worried about me. She's worried about all her kids. And she said, the worry never stops. Well, that may be true. Worry isn't just another one of the lies. Is it helpful to think about all the things that could harm us? Sure. I don't want my kids walking next to a cliff. I don't want them playing with guns. I don't want them grabbing the knives if they're not ready for that. Like I don't want the small little marbles around that Brady could choke on. And we do want to cut his grapes. So it is helpful to an extent, but living in this state of perpetual anxiety is ultimately unhelpful. Yeah. So what I teach about this particular negative emotion of fear and worry, I talk with anyone that's looking to grow past this kind of pervasive hum of anxiety that just can exist there all the time, is that the anxiety is there because it wants you to look at something that could be harmful. Great. When I feel the emotion of anxiety, I grab a pen and paper and I say, what specifically am I anxious about? Now, our brain is kind of like a computer, like a Google search bar. When we ask it a specific question, it pulls up specific answers. So if you are feeling kind of worried about something, pull out a pen and write down the question, what specifically am I worried about? An answer will show up. It could be, I'm worried about all my kids. Okay, well, I need to get more specific than that. Which of the kids am I worried about today? Okay, Cameron. Why am I worried about Cameron? What specifically is bothering me for Cameron? Well, I'm worried that maybe she doesn't have enough friends. Okay, great. Is there anything else? No, that's the specific worry. Okay, the next question, once we can identify the specific thing, because anxiety kind of shows up like this big cloud and we just think we're anxious about everything. We're not. The anxiety is our mind trying to help us. It's saying something isn't right with you and you need to look at it and do something about it. So when we ask our anxiety, what is it? What's the thing? What's the one thing? Not all of the things. What's the one thing today you want me to look at? And then we say, well, great. If that's the thing I'm worried about, that maybe Cameron doesn't have enough friends, what's one thing I could do to help? Well, she's got a really great friend named Rosie. Maybe I could reach out to Rosie's mom and see if they could have a play date this weekend. Okay. As soon as you take action, the worry subsides. Tomorrow, you might wake up with anxiety again. Do the exact same exercise tomorrow. It might be a completely different thing. It might be the same thing. And as you take action, it subsides. The worry's not there to drive you crazy. You're not an anxious person. It's there to help you do something to improve someone's life. That's it.
That's so good. I love how you framed that because it's these small actions we can take. And I think as a society, as a culture, we've been told for a really long time, oh, that's not right. Don't, take this pill, do this thing, don't feel that. And, it's perfectly socially acceptable to numb our feelings. And feelings are really just messengers telling us that something needs to be looked at. For decades, I numbed all the things and I thought I was happy or feeling joy, but it was actually just like this shell of joy that I was feeling when I would be drinking alcohol or going out to clubs or, doing these things that were really just deeply unfulfilling. And it's because I didn't have the capacity to feel. I didn't know how to feel. I wasn't, modeled. And so instead, I chose various drugs and alcohol to get me through, my teens and much of my 20s too, to really cope with these things. And I remember I took a Xanax recreationally. I was probably 17 years old. And I remember laying down in a parking lot. I was with a bunch of friends and I was kind of being silly, but I remember laying down and looking at the sky and being this is relief. And to feel that relief and then keep chasing the relief. And then finally, when I came out of this cloud, realized it was self-destructive, I thought, okay. I didn't think okay, here's what I'll do. It was very messy and I just took the next right step. But what I did is I started feeling my feelings and I started, if I needed to be down on the ground, crying and screaming into a pillow, that's what I would do. And it's really 30, 60, 90 seconds that we can feel these things and realize that they're not going to kill us. And I think, over time, the practice of that gets better. And I'm going to circle this around with, then we have the capacity to be present for when our kids are feeling the feelings and letting them know that it's okay for them to feel it and that mom and dad or whoever is here and we got you. We can witness you going through a challenge. Guess what? I'm here for it. Right?
Ryan, thank you for being so vulnerable. And I struggled with substances daily as well because no one taught me how to deal with the 8 negative emotions. Yep. And so I always say when someone's using a substance, and I don't care if it's antidepressants or drugs or alcohol or what it is, or pornography, that's a big substance today. Yeah. That elicits a feeling, that it comes from a noble place. We want to feel high. We want to feel happy. We want to feel joyful. And this is a shortcut to feel that way. and like you said, you're like, oh, finally relief. I get to feel joy. But then the unfortunate thing is that all the negative feelings come back when it wears off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, well, I have to do that thing again. But they come at a cost. So even though they come from a noble place that we just want to be happy and not have to be weighed down by the negative emotions, it doesn't work long term. And I did some research on this, and it is 75% of adults are using a substance at least on a monthly basis to change the way they feel. And
wow.
It's like 33% are on antidepressants. Recreational drug is like 20%. Overindulging in alcohol is the remainder.
Yeah.
And totally fine. But it's just everyone. And no one's like figuring out, how can I do this without this? And pornography is like 80 or 90% of men. And like regular addiction to pornography. It's like every single man that you see. And it's like, okay, well, I can feel something, right? What all it's doing is it's releasing dopamine, and there's a feeling of euphoria, of release, and all of these things. There's nothing wrong with it other than it's not actually fixing it. And what happens is we come back from any of these sessions and everything else in life is dull. So the experience of now our kids singing at the holiday at the Horseshoe should be like this amazing, joyful thing, is so dull in comparison to getting blackout drunk, because that releases way more dopamine. Mm-hmm. And now regular life just isn't as happy. So what we want to do is say, this is actually hindering my long-term ability to experience joy day to day. Mm-hmm. How do we start to move past these things? I'm a huge fan of any type of addiction recovery. There's so many groups. AA is an amazing group. One of the things that makes AA so effective, and I have friends that have gone through AA, family members that have gone through AA and been successful with it. And I, of course, broke my addictions, and it wasn't easy, but I did it with help. You know, I had coaches. I had people that were talking with me, that were helping me through it, that were holding me accountable, because I knew the goal. My goal was, I want to feel happy with life. I don't want to feel happy just when I'm using. But AA brings in spirituality. And this is so important. It's like one of the biggest things. It's like, there's something bigger than me out there. There's something bigger than me out there, and I need its help. And I don't care what you call it, the universe, God. For me, it's God. But there is something bigger out there that we can call on. And if we surrender ourselves, if we say, I can't do this on my own and I need help, will you help me? Guess what? Just kind of like Ryan said earlier, when she needed help with getting a babysitter, that it showed up. When we surrender to God or the universe, whatever, and we say, I need help, can you help me? It always hears. Yep. Always responds, and the help will show up. Then it's up to you to actually accept the help when it shows up. And it could show up as a meeting. It could show up as a coach. It could show up as a mentor who's been through it. It sounds like Ryan could walk you through it. You could reach out to her. I could walk you through it if you reach out to me. There's so many people out there that if you are open to help, you can move past. My buddy Matt Micheletti calls this the dragon. Yeah. And he said, drugs, alcohol, pornography, and antidepressants are the dragon of our time. Yeah. The darkness is so strong. It's so easy. It's so like pornography is right on your phone. Drugs now, you can walk into any store in most states and you can walk out. Alcohol's at the grocery store. Like, it's so readily available that you could just feel these great emotions immediately with consequence, that it's really hard to slay this dragon, and yet we have to slay it. Yeah. And it's like, it is the dragon of our time are these substances. But if you do slay the dragon, what's on the other side of it is a life of joy, like real joy.
Real joy. I can attest to that too, for sure. And it's, every day, just making healthy choices for yourself, tuning into how you're feeling, knowing, I like how you frame it as a habit. in 2018 and 19, I was doing the original name of the podcast was the Happy Mom Show is what it was. And I would talk about happiness and how it was basically sold to us in this package. And, just happiness was sold to us as a lie, basically. And it's not what it is. It's when you get the thing, then you'll be happy. And I realized that the happiness comes from the messy journey, like the messy middle. Like that's where you're happy. You're happy first, and then you get the thing or achieve the goal or start the family or do the thing you say you want to do. And then you're able to truly enjoy it because you've been happy the whole time, instead of thinking that you're going to get to this top of the mountain and you get there and you're like, oh, what was this all for? Right. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but other than to say,
you nailed it.
Yeah.
No,
right.
you nailed it. It is sold as if you get the perfect spouse, have the perfect children, live in the house with the white picket fence, drive the right car. Yep. If you do all those things, then you get to be happy. So just suffer your way to get there. And then as soon as you get there, it's going to be great. Mm-hmm. I did that. It didn't work.
Spoiler alert.
I showed up. I had, thankfully, a wonderful wife, Katie, and I had beautiful children, thankfully. And we did get a nice house, and I drove a nice car, and I wasn't happy. And that's when I woke up and I said, that wasn't it.
Right. Yes.
Happiness is a habit. It's a skill. So I'm going to practice it this morning. And then as I practice it this morning, and there are things that we can do, the second half of my book is habits that we can take to feel happy on a daily basis. Yep. I'm just going to give I don't care. You guys can, there's no, paywall here, but gratitude is the fastest one.
Yes.
If I practice gratitude multiple times a day, that I'm grateful for what I have, happiness starts to show up. And if another easy one that I always recommend, and I know you're big on this, is getting outside. If I get outside, if I connect with nature, then happiness usually shows up. Nature's one of the things that lights us up. If I get some sunlight today, if I exercise, if I move my body. So we start to do these things and we start to practice feeling good, and then it becomes this habit. And then if we achieve the goal, we're happy. And if we don't achieve the goal, we're still happy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Win-win. That's right. I love that. And that's what you were talking about in the beginning with the gratitude, the small wins, right? A win is a win, celebrating small wins. And I love that because if we really broke it down, the majority of our days would probably be wins. I mean, and we have a tendency as humans to go for that, negative 5 or 10% because I don't know why. I mean, perhaps our brains are wired to seek the negative out or
for
whatever.
Survival.
For survival. Right. There you go. Like that fear response.
It's it. If you eat the wrong berries, your whole tribe dies.
There you go. Yep.
So it's very focused on what's not going right to keep us alive. Great. Thank you. I'm glad that the human species has gotten to this point. Now, the next step of evolution is to move past that survival brain and move into a happy brain. And that just takes a little bit of effort, but it's worth it.
Yes. And on that note, tell us where we can get your book and find you and follow you and learn more about the amazing work you're doing in the world, Matt.
Well, the best place to plug in is actually the Good Mood Revolution podcast. So being a great parent is so important. I highly recommend listening to Raising Wild Hearts. I am a big fan of this show. And if you're looking for a second podcast to add to your week, my podcast, Good Mood Revolution, just produces a show about how to be happy, talking about how to be happy every single week. So that's the best place to plug in. The book is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and it's called Good Mood Revolution as well.
Perfect. And this is like the perfect time for your book to come out because everybody can get everybody on their list this for Christmas. I mean, who doesn't want to surround themselves with people who know the Good Mood Revolution steps? I mean, it's like very, from what I'm intuiting, pretty simple steps and pretty straightforward. Like it will logically make sense to most of us. And so I'm really excited for you to get this book out there. And I'm excited to get the book for myself and to read it and to gift it because 'tis the season. So yes, go out there and buy some copies for your friends and fam.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan. It is just a pleasure to know you and be friends with you.
Thank you so much. This is amazing. Now, as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you the 3 questions that I ask everybody at the end of the interview. And the first one is, what's bringing you joy today?
So many things. My heart is most full of joy just having this conversation with you. It really is so delightful to meet somebody that's on this path. And I just really appreciate it. I hope that we stay connected.
Me too. The feeling is mutual. Thank you so much. And then the next question I have for you is, what are you reading, if anything? Other than your own book.
I'm reading a book called, I just finished one called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport.
Recommend?
And I do. It's about how to be happy with your career. And I'm reading now his follow-up to that, which is Deep Work, also by Cal Newport, in which he argues that our society is losing the ability to focus deeply, and yet that's the one skill that is most valuable. So I'm very excited about getting less distracted and getting more focused.
That's interesting. We could go down the rabbit hole of the, tech that we're all immersed in daily for convenience and many other things, including
one of his
the
chapters.
work that we do. Yeah.
One of his chapters is called "Delete Your Social Media."
I like that. I just interviewed somebody and I was like, where can we find you and follow? She's like, I don't have social media. I was like, what? I mean, and I think that's great. I'm so curious. And yes, I like that. I like the idea of you don't need social media to have a business. You don't need social media to stay connected. In fact, the less I'm on social media, the more I feel like I have real life relationships.
My gosh. So I did it off of my phone.
Did you?
And yet I'm going to promote this episode to all my followers.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
I have it on my computer.
Yeah.
I'm able to post and promote things I care about and reply.
Yeah.
But it's on my terms. It's not this habitual, I'm lost in every single time I pick up my phone, I got to go to all the apps and see who's liked what I have to say. And
cool. I love that idea, because then you can still be connected in the interwebs, but it doesn't have to be on demand. It can be
right. I want my kids on demand.
That's right. That's right. Me too. I love that. And now the last question I have for you is, who or what has taught you the most?
My mom. She's the best. So when I was a kid, my dad abandoned us and wouldn't pay child support. I'm one of 4. My mom was a secretary. And this was the 80s. She was making $23,000 a year. And she said, and no one in her family had graduated college. And she said, you kids, you're going to graduate college. And it was, she said, it's my mission. You guys are going to be college graduates. And she, we made it work. We figured it out. I was at the grocery store adding up how much money each thing was, and we put it in the cart to make sure we had enough money this week to buy us all food. And when I was in high school, she remarried and she graduated from college. And then she started to take these classes on leadership, and she was reading books like The 7 Habits of Highly Influential People. And then she was teaching them to me, and she was getting this positive mental attitude. And I think I am who I am because of her leadership and how hard she worked. So she's my hero.
That's beautiful. I love it when someone credits their mama. Every time, like an athlete is like, well, I'd like to thank my mom. I'm like, yes, so sweet. Because mamas, we are doing the work. And if we choose to show up intentionally, as you put it, consciously with love, it's changing the world. So thank you so much again, Matt. This conversation was absolutely life-changing and positive, and I know it's going to affect so many people positively. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Hi again, friend. If you're listening to this, you made it to the end of a Raising Wild Hearts episode. Yay! Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you can hear more amazing conversations just like this one. And here's the deal. If you made it this far, go ahead and hop down on your podcast app and rate and review the show. Your words and 5 stars truly mean the world to me. Thank you for your support of the show. Thank you for showing up and listening week after week. I will be dropping new episodes every Monday, so tune in then, and I will talk to you soon.